see Tom. I see Jason. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're going to talk shared values today. Shared values. I wanted to turn it to shared experience too, something I love to talk about. Tom, how you doing today? You have a run this morning? What are you up to?
No, I'm doing well. I actually haven't gone out and done my workouts yet. On the schedule, I've got a bike ride and a swim on the schedule for today. So I haven't done them yet. I opted instead this morning before we got on here to finalize my draft of my newsletter, Value First, and get that all ready to rock and roll so that can go out at noon. And then after we finish up here with all these fantastic, lovely folks and not the smartest guys in the room, then I will go out and do my ride and my swim, which will be nice because yesterday was a run. It was hotter here yesterday, and my run was hill repeats, which is really fun. So basically 10 times 1 minute repeats where I was just essentially sprinting up a hill for a minute and then jogging back down or easily running easy back down. But it was not fun. It was not fun. Those workouts are never fun. But
are you on a road where like cars are driving by you?
So the place where I do the hill repeats is just up the street from my house, a little over a half a mile from my house. And it's a side road off of, we live on a side road basically. And it's a side road off of that side road. It's a dead end road. There is an outlet from it, but it's a dead end road. So like, there's not a lot of traffic. So I saw maybe 3 cars, something like that. So it wasn't too bad. There wasn't a lot of traffic.
And here's what I'm getting to. And if anybody else want to answer this, they can. When you are out exercising and people yell out of their cars at you, does that make you like, sometimes they are yelling nice things like, hey, keep it up, good job out there. And then sometimes they're like, get off the road, you idiot, or this is how things go in my world. So how does that make you feel when somebody screams from their car when you're out doing your thing? Am I too sensitive about it? Should I just be happy that people are waving, or what do you think?
I mean, so for me, it depends. Like a lot of times I don't get a lot of like attaboys or like way to goes. I'll get a fair amount of I'll get a lot of waves in the neighborhood. I usually, especially if like when I'm out running, I run against traffic, which is how you're supposed to do it, folks. PSA, in case you didn't know, if you're a pedestrian on a road, you go against the flow of traffic, right? So you walk on the left side or you run on the left side of the road, right? And if you're on a bike, you go with the flow of traffic. So you ride on the right side of the road. That's the rules. That's how you're supposed to do it. It's also much safer as a pedestrian to go against traffic. And so when a car is coming towards me, if they are considerate and move over and give me a nice wide girth, I give them a wave, right? And so I get a lot of waves. There's a lot of waves back and forth. There's cars in the neighborhood, people who I see like kind of routinely who wave at me every time they go by. So I get a lot of waves. But then I also get cars that just fly by and barely move over, and I could easily like reach out and touch their mirror as they go by. Those people, I tend to say things to that I won't repeat here, but are potentially slightly unsavory in nature. The kind of things that you wouldn't repeat in front of small children. But I think they fully deserve it. So I do that. I also like kind of yell out to people on my bike when they buzz past me, especially when you're on a secondary road. There's no other traffic. There's no need, right? You could easily give me plenty of room. And the laws are different from state to state, but I think in New York, where I am, I think the law is that you're supposed to give a pedestrian or a cyclist at least 3 feet of room, right? Like that's a minimum. You're supposed to move over and like not come within 3 feet of them, right? So if I can reach out and touch your car when you go by, you're way too close. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. It kind of goes both ways, but every once in a while I'll get like a looking good or like way to go or something like that from somebody driving by. Becky gets a lot more of those kinds of things than I do. But she also gets a lot of them from guys who are maybe commenting on the fact that she's running and maybe commenting on the fact that she's wearing, tight running shorts or something. I don't know. But yeah, she gets a lot more sort of verbal encouragement, which is not necessarily always wanted from guys. But yeah, so guys, be aware of that. Even if you yourself are a runner, like if you're out running around and you see a woman, like I wave to women who are running by in the neighborhood all the time. I never comment on their appearance, right? Because like I want to be.
Tom, do you think are there guys that don't know this?
I mean, there has to be, because there's guys that do it.
Okay.
Right. Like looking good, could be an innocuous statement, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a runner to another runner, like, hey, you're looking good. Your form's looking good. You look comfortable. Like you look like you're having a great run. That could be your intention. But you also have to bear in mind that, like, to a woman you don't know on the street running by, it could be, they could take it a different way. So I just kind of give a wave and say good morning and leave it at something like that, right? Like,
okay, I'm liking this room already today. I'm learning multiple things. So well done.
What were we supposed to talk about again?
Yeah, how people look on their bikes. Okay, we're going to talk about shared values today, which is, like, Tom, that's a good segue to it. Is okay, how do you treat people when you're out on the road? Okay, Tom's kind. I was thinking about, like, me as a publisher, and I share inspiration, positivity, smiles. I share things that I think are making a difference. I share things that I think are making a positive impact in the world. I share things that could be fatherhood. That could be, like, Jason just had one of my authors on his show the other day, Man to Man. 2 dads sharing a positive fatherhood message. This is something I believe in. I don't do politics. I don't do divisive commentary. I don't do right wing or left wing. I don't do shock. There's a publisher. I respect the guy. I know the guy. I'm friendly with him. He does all that and doesn't play in the space I do. So we're really not competing for the same kind of clientele. With his, it's you're going to be number one today. You're better than everybody else. F them if they don't like what you have to say. This isn't how I do things. It works for him. So if that's your belief and things like that, he's probably the guy for you. If you're like, hey, I think I want to put out more content that 20 years from now, people read it and they're like, I get it. That changed something. It created a spark. What Tupac say, I may not change the world, but I might ignite the spark that does, or something like that. Well, so that's how I feel about shared values, Tom, to get started. What say you? And let's get into this.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think shared values are important. I think it's important for a couple of reasons. One, like, right. So I think, depending on where you stand, right, whether you're looking at it from a personal brand perspective or a larger brand perspective, if you're part of a bigger company, I think, thinking about shared values is important, because it'll do 2 things ultimately, right? Like, one, it'll help you really hone in on where you stand, right? Like when you're talking about what your positions are as a publisher, as a business, like with Motivation Champs, what you want to share, right? It really helps you hone in on a vision of who you are as a brand and a business, right? So it can help you do that, but can also help you hone in on who you are personally, right? When you spend time thinking about what's important to you, you kind of naturally spend more time working towards accomplishing things or doing things that are important to you, right? If they're front of mind, if they're present in your day-to-day thoughts, and they become present in your day-to-day actions, I believe, right? And so I think communicating in a language of shared values ultimately moves all of us closer towards that sort of goal of being sort of relentlessly authentic, as I like to say, right? Being relentlessly authentic in our communications, communicating with our communities and our audiences authentically who we are, and thereby forging relationships with other people that share those values, right? So when you communicate in a language of shared values, what I mean by that is communicating your values to your audience, right? And giving them the opportunity to acknowledge and decide what values they share with you and whether or not they want to support you based on those shared values, right? And at the end of the day, when you forge relationships based on shared values like that, you end up with much more meaningful, long-term, sustainable relationships than you do if they're purely based on transactions, right? If you have something that I want, right? Um, like I was talking about getting my newsletter done this morning, right? My Value First newsletter, and in that newsletter, which is going to come out at noon today, I talk about Allbirds, right? Shoe company, but their sustainability efforts are front and center of all of their communications, internal, external, investor relations, you name it. They talk about the fact that they're a public benefit corporation. That's how they incorporated in the state of Delaware, that they're a certified B Corp. They earned that certification very early in their life in 2016. I think they were also founded in 2016, so it was really early on. But their values for sustainability are front and center in everything that they do, right? And I think that has only helped them. And I would bet if you talk to somebody who is an Allbirds customer that has several pairs of their shoes, they would tell you that that's one of the main reasons why they do, right? Is because they believe in sustainability also. And if they can support a company that is working towards creating sustainability and get a pair of shoes they really like at the same time, why would they not? So yeah, that's what I think, communicating and shared values can really do for a business or an organization, and for the individuals. I think it's a better way to communicate as people and as businesses. So that's what I got.
All right, let's dig into this, Tom. I like it. I got more questions, but I want to hear from Jason and Jolanta, two of our friends here today. Tara, Gary, what's up? If anybody on LinkedIn wants to ask a question, go over. It's streaming live on LinkedIn, streaming live on YouTube, Twitch, a bunch of other places. Where else we streaming, Tom?
We're on YouTube. I'm gonna just keep calling it Twitter. I refuse to call it anything else. So we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and we're on Twitch. That's where we stream all across the internet, baby. We're all over the place.
All right, so ask your questions. We have a group of experts here too that would love to jump in. So Jason, host of Man to Man, Jason, I personally think Jason's a friend of mine. When he interviews people, he does ask very intriguing questions. So I want to compliment you, Jason. I think it's a good space for you interviewing people. All the set-in, he asked like a question about journaling or something that you don't expect, and he comes right out very direct when he asks it. So Jason, we're talking shared values today. What are your thoughts on shared values? Can we benefit from them, or should we not share any of our values? I was just going to say, Tom, maybe we're terrible people and our values are this. Do we want people to know? Go on, Jason.
Well, a value isn't a value until someone can use it, right? So a shared value isn't important until other people can use it. And that, I mean, Tom pretty much just laid everything out, and, like for example, when I do man to man, I do a pre-brief. I get to know the person a little bit. I try to, I like when I was interviewing, Mr. Wanberg, I was just basically thinking, with Greg, I'm like, he's very hard, very direct, very rigid. So I can identify with that. That was a shared value that, it's like, it seems like we're no nonsense, but where does it come from? Well, the more that I got to know him off air was, hey, we both came from single parent families, right? Dad wasn't there. We had all these things in common of the struggle. And excuse my language, but we effed up early on, and we have effed up parts, but where we had common ground is like we came from similar style difficulties to, we're family men, we're parents, we're men versus males. And that was the whole thing in my movement of man to man, is like, how do we go from males to being men? So that journey he agreed with. So that's the other thing about shared value, is what do people agree with when they work with you? Just like I'm on a movement. It's not a contest. It's not a challenge. It's called Daily Walk 30. You just walk 30 minutes every day. Doesn't matter morning or night or day. I don't own this. I don't have a website. I don't have none of that, but it's for mental health awareness about presence, and giving yourself patience. And matter of fact, I tagged you, Dom, and thanks. Dom, I tagged you, and then Tom, thank you for the like. You guys both, liked my post, and I appreciate that. And that's a shared value, right? It's something that benefits humanity. So, to start wrapping this up, all I can say is like, when you give something people that they can enjoy, it's easier for them to get on board. But what I also know is a shared value that can be very dangerous is when people are upset, when people are angry, when they're not getting their needs met, and what they'll do to get those needs and voice and complain shows you also something that value can be very dangerous. Let's just, like you said, I don't talk about politics. I don't want to do that. That's not my arena. And there's a sense of caution there. That value lets you know, it's like, hey, I'm just not going to get into it. So when we look at shared value, it's at the end of the day, what can you come to the table with or leave the table altogether with? It's up to you. And that's all. And if you guys have more questions about Daily Walk 30, hit me up. But all I ask is walk 30 minutes, morning or night. I don't care. And look at my posts. I post a question every single day, and leave a thumbs up in the comments, and just like, that's all I care, or post a reflection. So yeah, that's where I stand.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think there was a good distinction you drew too, because it made me think of something. Um, the phrase herd mentality kind of popped into my head, right? When you were talking about sort of the sort of negative side of values, or talking about kind of like fear driven kind of group behavior. And so the herd mentality thing kind of popped into my head. And I think that's often kind of, associated with a negative connotation, but I think there can be a positive side to it as well. And one that maybe we don't talk about as much, or use that phrase with contextually, but it makes sense to me. And here's what I mean by that. If you think about, herd mentality, it's often, you think about herd, like, herds kind of grouping together, panicking and running together, right? Like that kind of idea. But then there's also, you think about this phrase, the sort of common phrase, it takes a village, right? Especially as it pertains to sort of raising children. That's the place where you hear that phrase used a lot, is it takes a village. And I think that also describes kind of the positive side of herd mentality, and it goes to shared values, right? Like that people, when you are talking about sort of raising a child or bringing someone up or supporting someone or supporting a family, you talk about community, you talk about neighborhoods coming together, you talk about or you see examples of places where people come and lift up other members of their community when they need the help, right? When they come to each other's aid when they can, and support them when they need it. So I think I think there's a lot to be said for the ways that shared values really help us strengthen and build communities, and the ways that shared values help us move forward, right? Culturally, societally, and even even when it comes to, technological innovation, and shared values around, around improvement overall, for humankind, I think there's a lot to be said for it. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think what you're doing is a great thing. I think, encouraging people to take, 30 minutes a day to do two things, right? One, to be a little bit reflective and actually think about what they're doing is important, right? I think so often people find themselves so busy throughout the day that they don't really make any time to reflect or think about what they're doing with intention. And I think that's important to do. But the other thing too, Jason, is encouraging people. It's something obviously near and dear to me, because I'm a lunatic and I'm addicted to endurance exercise, obviously. But it's the idea of just getting out and being active and moving your body, right? Which also is really important, and is a sort of undervalued important part of mental health, right? Is getting out and moving your body. So I think you're doing a couple of good things there, and I appreciate and applaud it. So thanks for that, Jason. What do you think, Dom?
I'm enjoying the conversation, and I wanted to bring it back and just question everybody here. Is it all on a brand, in branding, in sharing your brand? Like, let's say Tom's into fitness. So if Tom shares, we know Tom does amazing productions. He does storytelling, high level. So is it, if Tom tells about fitness, or Tom tells about, like, I know you EMT, right? Or you do volunteer in that world?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer firefighter. Yep.
Okay. Is that something we should lead with, these other things like that? Is that okay, or is that bad? Like, because we're talking about business here. And so sharing, like, okay, if I go out and deliver turkeys, like, are people going to be like, look at this guy? Who's he think he is? Or is that a good thing to say, hey, at the end of the day, I'll spend all my time helping people, and that probably comes first, or is it like, Tom's just trying to show he's got big muscles and has a good time when he runs the mile,
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone would argue that I, quote, have big muscles. I'm definitely not definitely not a bodybuilder, by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I mean, I think, to your point, Dom, I think the flip side, my rebuttal to that, right? If somebody were to make that argument to me and said, look, I don't care that you're a volunteer firefighter. I don't care that you do, you're an Ironman triathlete. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Can you point a camera at something, right? Like, that's what they care about. My response to that would be, I don't think I want to work with you, probably primarily. But secondly, I would say, well, don't you want to know who you're working with? Like, what really matters to you at the end of the day? Is it all down to dollars and cents? Then if that's true, then again, I kind of stand by my first statement. I'm not sure I want you as a client, right? Like, if somebody comes to me and says, yeah, all that stuff is great, your experience is great, whatever, I just need a monkey to point a camera at something, right? My response is going to be, all right, then probably go hire somebody else, right? Because that's not what I do. Like, I'm not here to just point a camera at something, right? So I'm not here for the dollars and cents. I'm never going to race to the bottom on a bidding war to underbid somebody else, right? If somebody comes to me and they ask me for a quote and I give them a response and they say that's way too expensive, my response is always, the way I come back to that is, I never negotiate on labor, right? I only ever negotiate on scope of work. The labor costs what the labor costs, right? My work is worth what it's worth, right? So at the end of the day, I'll say, okay, how can we adjust the scope of work to fit in your budget? And when they say none, we have to do all these things, can you do it for less? I.e., can we devalue your work? My response is, nope, sorry, you're going to have to go find somebody else who's less expensive, right? Because at the end of the day, I value my work. And if you're telling me that you don't value my work, I don't really want to work with you. And if you don't value working with a whole person, right? If you're going to dehumanize me by trying to say that you don't care about who I am as a person, I don't really care to work with you. Right? Like that's sort of my, I mean, that's kind of goes to the core of my whole thing, like what I'm trying to do, right? This whole like kind of mission that I'm on to humanize the world of business. Like if you're going to dehumanize me, I don't want to work with you. You're what I'm fighting against. Right? So like why would I put any time or effort into helping perpetuate your continued dehumanization of people in the workforce and probably your clients and customers too, right? Because if you're going to treat people you work with that way, there's no way that you treat your customers any better. Because often you don't have to look them in the eye as you do it, right? So yeah, so I think at the end of the day, that's kind of my response, right? Is like, okay, then I don't want to work with you, because I want to know as a person, I want to know who I'm working with. Like I'm always curious to learn about people's hobbies and interests outside of their profession and even inside of their profession. Like I want to know why you're passionate. Like Dom, I would want to know like why you're passionate about publishing positivity, right? Like why are you passionate about the work that you do? That tells me something about who you are, about what motivates you, right? And that's important to me. I want to know that you're motivated by more than just the number on the bottom of your P&L, right? Because if you're only motivated by the number on the bottom of your P&L, then that also tells me a lot about who you are as a person, right? And what matters to you. And then maybe you're a little bit of a sociopath. But uh but but yeah, like I want to work with other people who are kind and empathetic and caring and want to make the world a better place and want to lift other people up and want everyone to get something out of the relationship, right? That's who I want to work with. I got no time for people that are just all take and no give. So hopefully that answers your question. If you don't care that I'm a volunteer firefighter, or you don't want to know who I am as a person, like you can go ahead and like stop following me now.
Okay, so just before I just want to, just as we dig into this, is like, because I hope people learn from today. Like that's what every week we hope people take something away. Maybe they can use it in their business. Maybe they can use it in their daily life. So I just want to push the envelope a little bit here. So I live in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to share something that I live in Pennsylvania. I have guns. I have guns that I don't hunt. I don't like hunts. I have guns to shoot zombies. I like to look at them. It is not my thing to. I don't have a stance. I think we handle them. We treat them with respect. Me and my son might go shoot dirt. He actually will shoot. Actually, I have targets that have zombies on them, and now he'll go hunt or something like that. So I'll watch him like sight the gun in that my dad gave me. And I didn't grow up with guns or anything like that. Guns could be something that if you talked about, and if I talked about them like this, that it could be a turnoff to somebody when you're talking about like it, and this is like with an ancillary, like way down the list of things that I would ever promote or anything like this. But people need to know that their stance on whatever their stance is. Hey, John Jay, what's going on? Carrie, Gary, Tara. But before I get into my stance, we're talking shared values today. And I was just saying that I have guns. And this is something that could be a major turnoff to people. How the hell could you have guns? I use them to look at. I use them to like go up and I open the little safe up and I look at it and I'm like, ooh, this is cool. I want it at a bash. I shoot them once in a while. But people need to know whatever their stance is on whatever their shared value is, it could open up the door, which this is what I don't think a lot of people know. Once anything comes out of your mouth, like me saying that about the guns, people might say, wow, what a jerk. This guy has guns. This guy treats them a certain way. Okay, well, I opened myself up to that. So you need to know when you talk, if you have a stance on left wing, if you have a stance on right wing, if you have a stance on homelessness, if you have a stance on Santa Claus, whatever it is, you are opening yourself up to feedback that you might not be able to handle, that might it could hurt your brand or business. Tom, before we get to Jolanta, do you want to give a comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to comment on the fact that you said you have guns to shoot zombies, which I thought was hilarious. Because I'm not sure that that's a realistic concern, but okay. I like it anyway. I think it's funny, but yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, I'm with you, and I think what people worry about too much, right? They spend way too much time worrying about whether or not they're going to be liked by everyone or critiqued by anyone, right? And the truth is that you should be much more focused on sharing authentic values with your audience to forge deeper connections with people that share those values, um, rather than worrying about the people that you don't share values with, right? Like, you can't be friends with everyone, and you're not ever going to be everyone's cup of tea. No one, not a single person who's ever we lost Dom from the live stream, guys, but he's still in the room, so give us a minute.
Yeah, my computer went to 0. All of a sudden, everything shut down, and it says you have experienced problem. Go on, you're making good points, though.
So anyway, the point, what I'm getting at really here is you're never going to be all things to all people, right? You're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. No human being that has ever walked the face of the earth has been universally liked, right? Not a one. It's not possible. So stop trying. That's the thing I like. That's one of the things that goes along hand in hand with this. And I think it was great that you pointed it out, Dom. It goes hand in hand with this idea, right? Like, if you're going to communicate shared values, you also have to accept that not everyone is going to share those values, right? Like Dom said, he lives in Pennsylvania, he owns guns. I live in New York, I own guns, right? Do you know why I own guns? Because I enjoy sport shooting, right? Like, I enjoy going to the range and I enjoy like skeet shooting, right? It's fun. I'm not out there trying to kill people or kill things. I don't walk around with a gun on me all the time or anything crazy like that, like, because there's no need for it. But I own guns and it's okay, right? Like, and there may be somebody who turns around and goes, "Oh, that guy owns a gun, I'm out." Like Dom said, okay, that's fine. If you feel that strongly about it, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth something getting that worked up about, and so I don't. But yeah, I mean, I think I was starting to get worried about show and tell for a second there, Dom. If you weren't back, I was going to have to make something up if you weren't on the live stream for show and tell. But yeah, I think I think people spend too much time worrying about somebody not liking them rather than focusing on the people who do, right? Focusing on the people you do share values with, right? Like, if you go to a party and you have 3 of your friends are there, but there's 100 people at the party, are you more focused on your 3 friends, the people you have a real relationship with, or the 97 other people in the room that you don't know? I think the answer is pretty clear. You're more focused on your 3 friends, right? So focus on the people who actually share values with you rather than the people who don't and are willing to dismiss you over it. Can't be all things to all people. It's okay.
Well done, Tom. Okay, let's keep this rolling. Not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate everybody who's here on LinkedIn, on Clubhouse. We appreciate you coming. If it's for 5 minutes, if it's for 2 minutes, if your app's not working that day and you tried to get in, I go to rooms on this app sometimes. I go and I get kicked off. I try 2 more times, then I have to upload the app again, and I'm not there. We appreciate you trying. We appreciate you coming in and joining the conversation. So you make it happen. Thank you. So, Jolanta, we're talking shared values. So, what do you got? What do you got? Best advice on communicating shared values, something you believe in. What do you think? Or something you don't believe in and you don't want to talk about, but best advice for communicating shared value. What do you got?
I actually like this topic, you guys, and good morning. Hopefully you can hear me okay because Clubhouse I know has had updates again, and the app likes to kick me out. So it might kick me out. Just be wary of that. I wanted to add something that Tom was talking about because it really spoke to me. When it comes to valuing who you are, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I'm all about mental health as well. And to Jason's point, getting outside and walking is really important. Like if you're working on a task, because we work those long 8 to 5 days, if you have a job, or if you're building your business on the side, sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own worlds and we forget to get outside to hit the reset button and just go and exercise our creative energy, right? So for me, I remember when I was struggling with my photography business for the longest while, trying to get my clients and trying to get my ideal audience. I focused on that so much that I forgot how fun photography was. And somebody told me a couple of years ago, and I'll always remember this during the pandemic. Somebody said that your work is too valuable and your art is valuable, and that you should be charging the rates that you are charging. And that got me thinking so much because as a creative, I don't want to undervalue my prices as well. So I keep thinking to myself, why is it that I have to undercut my services in order to get hire clients or in order to get higher customers. And I said no, I had enough because like you, Tom, um, I would prefer to know my three friends at that party than to randomly know other people, especially if they add value to my life. Like I recently went on a Facebook deleting spree for that reason because I was like, who is really supporting me here? And sometimes taking that real harsh reflection of yourself as a person and then taking it to another level because we have so many friends on Facebook, but do you really know all of those people on Facebook, or are they just add-ons from other things, from other events you've gone to? But how much have you been in communication with these people, and are they even supporting you um, with your endeavors? So I had that harsh realization a couple of weeks ago, and to me, I would rather know 10 people that I know really well than a bunch of strangers that are just looking on all of my social media profiles. Like I go, I have no idea what has happened, but you've got to organize yourself and you have to organize your life a little bit and reflect on the things that matter to you most because you only have one life and you can only do so much. So um, there's an audience for everyone. My motto is you might not be liked by everybody, but there's an audience for somebody that's listening to you, but you just have to know your value and you just have to keep going. That's all I've got to add. Thanks, Dom. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jolanta. Appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. I think those were great points, and thank you for seconding what I was talking about. I always appreciate the backup and the pat on the back as I take those things to be. So thanks for that, John Wiley. You're up, buddy. What's your best piece of advice for communicating shared values with your audience? Right, somebody who's a syndicated radio host. What's your best piece of advice?
Well, I go through a process that number one, I don't care one bit about shared values because, quite frankly, everything about me is not for everybody, and not everybody's earned a right. So that's applying to social media and other things. My goal is to get them to listen to the show, the radio show or the podcast. The radio stations have different goals, different needs than the consumers of the podcast. But in there, quite often they'll hear the content in an environment where I can tell people the real deal. I'll say this: I don't answer yes to people's preconceived stereotypes in social media posts because I own guns. By the way, the reason why I own guns is I've been shot at 4 different times. Actually, 7 times in my police career. 4 were very close calls, and I'd rather have it and not need it than the other way around. End of story. But people will judge me harsh because of that, and they won't listen. But I can tell people in my show why I do what I do. And they can hear, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. So again, my shared values is I want to create an environment in social media, in podcast search directories, in SEO, where people are looking for a certain type of content will find it. And the content is not my lifestyle, what I believe, what I think, who I'm voting for, any of that stuff. If you ask me, that's garbage. If you want to hear it, you can hear it by listening to my content, which is how I earn revenue. So again, I'll just say this: not everything about me is for everybody. And most importantly, everybody, including people who are very inactive on social media, they may see that one post because of engagement, and they may become a life changer for you. So I don't delete anybody ever. Um, I put them in there, and it's up to them. They respond to it or they don't. It's totally up to them. But I don't, like Dominic said, I have guns, and whether people like them or not is not the issue for me. It's about listening to my show. That's my content.
John, you're doing a good job getting listeners to your show, putting out high quality content. You do have I think there is a huge shared value with the people that support the blue and the services and people protecting us. So
yeah, but here's the thing, I'm gonna give you Dominic a little a pat on the back. The vast majority of people that consume my show, like Investigation Discovery Channel, is one of the top rated TV channels on cable because it's not for cops. It's from cops for everybody else. And most of my guests were never in law enforcement. It's about trauma they went through, how it impacted them, what they did with their lives afterwards. That's the real money earner for me, but it's a personal experience thing. And if I cannot get people to, listen to their stories, then the platform doesn't matter. And here's a little pat on the back for Dominic. Dominic has been posting more photos on social media, and I'm seeing far more of them on my newsfeed, and I'm reacting to them. I see far less of his videos ever. You're doing a great job, by the way.
all right, I'm in your vortex, so I appreciate that. Okay, so John, here's a question for you. As a former officer, how do you feel about me having guns to shoot zombies?
Well, first of all, I don't think zombies are real. I think it's a Hollywood creation, Dominic. I don't think that's the reason why you have them. The reason why you have them is totally up to you. What I would say is, here's the most important thing, and I'm pretty sure you come from a hunting background, and I'm just imagining from where you were in Pennsylvania. Know gun safety, know how to use them, and know the basics. That's the most important thing. The guns I've had for the last 30 years have never shot anybody. However, if I am going to point that gun at someone, it's because I intend to shoot them because they are threatening my life or my safety or someone else's. That's the only time I'll ever do it. So manner is more important. Manner of use is more important than ownership, if you ask me.
No, thank you, John. And truthfully, I do like to look at them. I do, but I did not grow up with them. I grew up playing basketball, and I had a coach that said, he said in 7th grade, you can either hunt or you can play basketball. I choose basketball. And then later on, he said, you can either go skiing or you can play basketball. And I chose basketball. So it took me 30 years to get back to both of those other things, whether it was having guns or going skiing, which I know I'm interested in both. But okay, we will cruise on. Thanks, John, man. Always appreciate you. And I appreciate the what you said about the photos. Maybe I need to pump out more photos. I got a lot of photos, and make sure I'm on message with them. But I do put out a lot of videos too. I'm a link share, which is bad, and I know that. So, but I got my own little thing there going on. I'm a link sharer. I admit it. Because you're trying to grow other platforms, get people other content. I know when I am getting punished by sometimes we'll have this argument with like authors and stuff, and they'll be like, yeah, but I didn't get as many views. I didn't get as many views when I shared the link. No shit, right? Like, but you're using a free distribution platform. You got 3 views or 100 views or 50. It wasn't the same as the picture that got 1,000. So I think you got to know why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, let's go on. That's my excuse, whether it's a good excuse or not. Okay, go on. Okay.
I wanted to just quickly, before we get to show and tell, Dom, I just wanted to quickly second something that John said there that I 100% agree with. And that was, if you're going to own guns, you should make sure that you take some safety courses, right? That you educate yourself on gun safety. There are a shockingly large number of accidental gun deaths in this country that are completely preventable for the most part with gun safety, right? Following gun safety. So making sure your guns are secured, making sure they're not accessible to young kids, and making sure that you understand how they function and how to use them safely. I think it's incredibly important. So, if for anybody who owns guns, if you haven't, because there is no requirement in many states to take a gun safety course before you buy a gun, I would encourage everyone to do so. It can really make a huge difference, and it means that you can use your guns in a safe manner and not be perpetually fearful of them. So if you want to go skeet shooting or target shooting or something like that, you can learn a lot about gun safety, and I would encourage people to do that. But yeah, I just wanted to second that. I think it's incredibly important that people really should be educated on gun safety. It literally will save lives. Not can, it will save lives. So I just wanted to second that.
All right, so let's do this. Before we get to Julie, it's time for a bumper where we're going to do a bumper. It's time for show and tell. Show and tell. Should me and Tom expand our reach and we had bumpers and things like that? Ta-da! It's show and tell.
Hold on. I'm just going to pump the brakes there, Dom. If we do that, we don't have to say bumper.
Ta-da!
And we don't have to do hand motions or like it'll be a graphical thing. It's probably actually better we don't talk about it because then I have to edit it out.
Okay, fair enough. Ta-da! Okay, no. So today,
no ta-da, just show and tell. Just stop.
All right, fine. Then we're
ta-da.
Gonna get to our friend Julie Loken. So I'm gonna go get it first. Here we go.
All right. But yeah,
okay.
we're talking about kind of bringing not the smartest guys in the room to some other platforms as a series, and I feel very much like I empathize with your buddy from Bikes and Hikes right now, Dom. I feel like you're like, oh, should we do this? Should we say this? And he's like, no, we don't need to say it. We'll just do it. It's fine. We'll do it in post. Like, it's all good. Please stop saying, welcome to Bikes and Hikes. Like, that's going to be on screen. You don't need to say it. Everybody knows there's a logo on the screen right before we start talking. So you don't need to point.
That's what the YouTubers all do, pound, smash the like button, smash the like button, pound the like button. Okay. So I believe in stepping out of your comfort zone. This is today's show and tell. I believe in stepping out of your comfort zone. I think the more we do it, the easier it gets. And I want to live. And it seems the more we do it, the easier it gets, the more enjoyment we get out of it. Like all of a sudden, I told you about playing pickleball a couple weeks ago. Now I love pickleball, or you do these things, whether it's like Tom swimming in a lake. Well, that's got to be freaky, swimming in a lake. I want to know, how deep is that lake before? You don't know?
Well, the deepest part, that lake's not very deep. I think the deepest part's only about 35 or 40 feet. So it's not a very deep lake.
Okay, but that's serious business. You're out in the middle of that. You're out in the middle of the lake. You better keep.
I can't. There's no place I can touch the bottom, like other than at the shores.
Okay. Yeah, I want to. Okay. See, I can get myself sidetracked real quickly. Okay. So stepping out of your comfort zone. So last year we did anything that floats. Actually, on Bikes and Hikes, we went out. We built a craft, and we sunk in 30 seconds. I didn't even think I was going to get wet, and we sunk in 30 seconds. It was a huge failure. The boat collapsed, and they had to actually, like, fire department pulled like parts, the 50 drum barrels and the bikes out of the water with like big ropes and stuff like that. It was terrible. So we told ourselves we were never going to do it again. That's life. But we decided we would compete against each other, me and the guy I do Bikes and Hikes with. So this year we competed against each other. I built my own float. Me and somebody's built a float. Jim Ajay was part of my team. So this puppy right here This little flag I am waving was on my father-in-law put it on the back of my float. This is a pirate flag. And we did finish, and video will be coming, but you step out of your comfort zone. You do something different. Had a blast. Got some cheers, probably some booze, and had this little flag here to show for it, and it all worked out, Tom. So that's today's show and tell.
All right, Dom. I know you're on TV regularly, but I gotta be a producer for a second. When you hold that flag up again and hold it out so everyone can see it. Go ahead and grab. You can touch the flag. It's okay to touch the flag. You don't have to only hold it by the stick. There you go. There now everybody can see it. There we go. All right. Yeah. So for anybody that wants to see it, go to the live stream. You can check it out. It's about 50 minutes in where Dom actually holds the flag up so everybody can see it. It's pirate flag, right? Skull and crossbones with the ubiquitous eye patch. I don't know why he needs the patch. He doesn't have any eyes. He's just a skull and a bandana. I don't know, to keep his non-existent hair in check. I don't know why he's wearing a bandana either. But anyway, but it's funny. And Jason, if you go to my YouTube, Talex Media's YouTube, it's definitely live there. I don't know if Dom paired his this week, but it's definitely live on my YouTube.
Hey, Tom,
so
I want to
check it
point out something. You made a good point here. Something I've learned being on camera, and you probably know it and teach it, and because you've done 20 years of it compared to my 4 years swimming upstream or whatever. But I am noticing when I see like real actors and people on TV, everything when you're on those sets is it lasts longer. So when somebody smiles, I'm going to smile on the screen. The smile is longer. I was watching Tom Brady speak the other day, and I was thinking somebody probably taught him this, and he put his arms out to the side, and he was talking, and his arms stayed out to the side longer than what we would do if we were just talking like this. But when he was on TV, just like the smile or the flag, would you agree that that's a thing, Tom? Is that taught, or how's that work?
Well, yes and no. I mean, so like, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about when you say it lasts longer, but we do often teach people to slow their movements down, right? I mean, how many times have you been talking to somebody and they go to show you something and they just kind of flash it at you, like literally person to person, right? You're face to face with somebody and they go to show you something on their phone, right? Like this is something that we do often in sort of society now, right? We all have smartphones. We all have social media on our smartphones. We all take pictures with our smartphones, right? How often do you have somebody show you something on their phone and you have to say to them, hold on, let me see that again? Because they just kind of flash it at you because they know what it is. So they don't give you enough time to take in the full image they're sharing with you. They just kind of flash it at you and it goes away, right? And you have to say to them, hold on, let me see that one more time. Let me see that again, right? So what we're really teaching people to do is to pause and give people a chance to see what you're showing them, right? So when you held up the flag, you did a good job of holding it up and sort of waiting a beat before you moved it when I asked you to hold it up, right? Because not everybody knows what it looks like. And I couldn't see the bandana or the eye patch when you held it up the first time. Right. So that's why I asked you to hold it up again, because I knew if I couldn't see it, other people couldn't see it either. Right. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why we ask people to kind of slow themselves down a little bit, is so the audience gets a chance to sort of take in and understand the context of what they're being shown, rather than it just sort of like flying by in an instant and them being left going, man, I wish they showed that for a second longer. I don't know what they were talking about. I didn't get a chance to see it, right? So you always want to leave things on screen, slow movement down a little bit so that people get a chance to really see it and take it in as a viewer, right? Because they don't have all the context that you have as the person there, right? Like you knew exactly what that flag is when you showed it to us, right? I'd never seen it before in my life. So like, I needed a little bit more time and to be able to see the full flag to really appreciate what it was, which is why I asked you to hold it up again. And you did probably what Dave has taught you to do on bikes and hikes. And when you're filming stuff is to hold it up and just kind of pause for a couple of seconds. Don't move it around, just hold it up and pause, right? So that the camera can see it clearly for a second, and then you can take it away. Right. And so, yeah, so that's why, right? Is so that the audience can really take it in and appreciate what's going on.
Okay. And now, Julie, we're coming to you for shared values, and Tom's going to give us a wrap up. But that makes me think about writing. A lot of times, author knows what they want to say, but they didn't write it. And it's because the reader doesn't know the context, like Tom's saying. So you write something, think everybody was in that room with you, or knew your friend that you were glad to see, or knew how scared you were, or how high you were, or all these other things, and you didn't write it, so they didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, Julie Loken, our dear friend, the founder of Creative Con, Julie Loken, the media caster. Shared values. You have an army of people that love Julie Loken. Is there a tip for shared value? How do you, whether it's being a mom, a storyteller, a kind-hearted soul, how do you use that as an asset?
This is amazing. I wasn't sure where this conversation was going, from guns to pickleball to flags to all the different things. So, I mean, it's even when we're bombarded with a lot of things in our lives, it's staying true to who you are, number one, and also having empathy and understanding other people's situations. I think that's probably where I find value is I can understand everybody's situation, give voice to it if it's not like in a toxic over the top way, but I do understand everyone's situations, and I think people should have more empathy in this world. Thank you.
Julie Loken, we appreciate you. Not the smartest guys in the room. Thank you to all who have arrived today. Oh, I'm going to look at the comments before Tom gets to the wrap up. Okay. Tara says cheat for the camera. Jason says, I like the pirate flag. Somebody doesn't see my YouTube live. Oh no. Jolanta had to run. Uh-oh. Julie put some water guns there. Okay, we did talk a lot. We talked about a lot today, so, Tom. So, hey, Phil Hill said hi. Tom, we talked about a lot. I don't know that it's even possible to tie this up with a bow, so the pressure's on you. What do you got, my man?
I mean, look, I'm up for the challenge. Here we go, right? So we did talk about a lot, right? We started talking about communicating shared values, right? And the importance of that to develop sort of long-lasting, real relationships with your community, with your audience, and ultimately with your customers as a business. And we talked about a lot of things around that. We kind of got onto some controversial subjects, is sort of how the context in which guns came up, right? And I think that actually really kind of furthered the conversation in a good way, right? Because I think it helped people really understand, and I'm glad you brought it up, because it helped people really understand that it is okay to be honest and to accurately represent what you believe in and what you value, right? And that actually it's a good thing, because what it ultimately means is that you will create opportunities to attract people that share your values, right? And create opportunities to push away or repel people that don't share your values. And when you think about the relationships that you have in your life, and I'm talking personal life, your friendships, right? Maybe your marriages, right? Your romantic relationships with parents or with children, right? All the most important relationships we have in our lives revolve around some sense of shared values, right? There are commonalities we have with all the people that we hold most dear and are most important to us. And there's no reason why that has to be exclusive to personal relationships. There is no good reason in the world why those kinds of relationships built on shared values should be should not exist in business as well, right? And so what I would encourage people to always do is to be relentlessly authentic, to share their values, to communicate their values to their audience in a business context, right? And to allow those shared values to create opportunity for them to cultivate relationships in their businesses that transcend transactions, right? And really turn into lasting partnerships, right? With loyal customers and community members that are built on trust, right? That's ultimately what shared values can and should do, right? I kind of often eschew this idea that that we should have personal lives and professional lives. I'm me, regardless of whether I'm at work or I'm at home. I'm always the same person, and I think everybody else should be too. My behavior is contextual, right? There are things that are appropriate in a workplace, right? That I follow when I'm at work, and there are things that are appropriate at home that I don't do when I'm at work, right? Like their behavior is contextual, but at the end of the day, I'm just me all the time, right? It sounds exhausting to try to be anybody else, and so I would just encourage everyone to do the same. Be you, be the best you can be, and make sure that everybody gets to see who that is. And that's where I'll leave it for everybody today. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us yet again for another edition of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. For Dom, I'm Tom. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We thank you for being a part of this community. Please share Not the Smartest Guys in the Room with all of your friends. Let them know that they can come in, participate in the conversation, give their 2 cents, and let us know if you like the pirate flag or not. Or maybe you fly. What kind of flag do you fly? How about that? So anyway, until next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And we'll see you then. All right. Have a great rest of your week. Love you guys. Bye-bye.